This recap is brought to you by Couragema55, the creator of the series. I promise everything I say is completely accurate to what actually happens. Also, major spoilers for both Season 1 and Season 2. Click off now if you don't want to be spoiled. I warned you. Crystal Desires is a show about two depressed teenagers whose mom just died or something. I don't really remember. So the two teenagers, Lucas and Emily, both live with their dad Damien, who is also depressed because, you know, his wife died. Anyway, Lucas and Emily get bored and decide to wander into the forest where they find this all-powerful magical crystal. Meanwhile, Damien gets bored and decides to go on he meets up with this woman online because he has zero sense of stranger danger. Before he does that, the two kids also meet this lady and find out her name is Beryl. Damien meets up with her so she can go and manipulate his daughter Emily to be evil later. So then creepy lady who lives in the woods and the two crystal children meet up again, and Emily decides that since she hasn't used her weird crystal thing yet, she might as well let Beryl teach her how to use it since apparently she made it in the first place. Also, she says some mean stuff to Lucas and it makes him sad, so he goes home to cry to his dad. Afterwards, his dad introduces Lucas to this guy called Donovan, who Damien used to be friends with in the past. Donovan teaches Lucas how to unlock the powers of the crystal, so he summons Beryl's dead husband to test it out. I think. Meanwhile, Beryl shows Emily how to unlock the powers, and it's totally a coincidence that both her and Donovan know how to perform that very specific spell. Anyway, after that happens, Lucas decides he wants to go and fight Emily because it turns out that the crystal can just blow up the world if the person who has it wants to. So obviously that's a bad thing. So he goes to beat up Emily, but it turns out meanwhile the creepy lady who lives in the woods broke into Damien's house, and is now bullying him for being a crybaby over his wife's death. Or something. Dad guy figures out that Lucas is gone, so he goes after him, and saves Lucas from being hit by Emily's hyper beam. After Emily briefly feels bad about hurting her dad, Beryl shows up again and tells her to blow up the world with her crystal, but instead of the world being blown up, Lucas is able to save it with his crystal. Then the two are put inside of a fake world where their mom is the emotionless zombie now. After some stuff with Beryl, Lucas brings back the original world, but Emily decides to go with Beryl again because she wants revenge. Directly after that happens, Donovan helps Lucas heal Damien, but Damien and Donovan get into a disagreement about Damien hiding his tragic backstory from Lucas, so Damien tells Lucas his totally legit tragic backstory, where he reveals that he was actually friends with Beryl at one point, and they all used to work for this jerk called King Carlos, who might be relevant later. Damien and Flora ran away from this war in the past that they wanted to protect Lucas and Emily from. After that happens, we switch to Beryl as she decides she needs more help, so she somehow finds Flint's number and promises to free him from baby jail. Then Beryl's brother-in-law shows up but gets mad at Damien, so he joins Beryl after she manipulates him. Meanwhile, Flint is telling Emily how to be a bad guy, and she listens because she's dumb. So now she's using this new power called Corruption, which lets her be more evil but worsens her depression. Or something. Anyway, so Lucas saves her from blowing herself up, and they actually don't fight each other this time, but now Lucas needs to stop Emily from turning fully evil. It's revealed at this point that Beryl and Flora actually used to be really good friends, but now Beryl hates her because she got abandoned when Flora ran away. Emily has a go at Beryl after DJ Yellow lies about murdering Damien after they had a fight in a previous episode, so Emily runs away and goes to summon her mom to talk to. Her mom is disappointed in her, but explains the reason why she died in the first place was because that she was actually chosen by the crystal before Emily was, and how she had a magic demon thing called an Amika that had 2 colours instead of 1. Also, the crystal murdered her for being too evil or something, so Emily gets mad and breaks her crystal because apparently that's a thing she could do before. She gets sad and runs home, and Lucas spots her, and she explains what happened, and the two reconcile. Meanwhile, knock knock, it's Purple Guy, and he's here to actually kill Damien this time. Lucas doesn't want that to happen, so he fights Flint instead. After some big old talk where Flint tries to manipulate Lucas and fails, Lucas gets annoyed and Flint loses his mask. Turns out that Flint caught corruption, and is super duper evil, so he ends up breaking Lucas's crystal, and now everyone's magic is back, including Flint's, so he beats up Lucas. But Floyd decides to be relevant again and protects Lucas. Flint takes this opportunity to run away, and everyone goes back home. Then, we get a flashback to Flora talking to King Carlos, and oh my god, they were siblings this whole time? What? Anyway, so Flora is iconic in this scene as she lays it down on Carlos, and she leaves in a temper. Then we flash to the present as King Carlos realizes that his sister has been gone for 12 years, only now, and realizes that he needs her help with the whole magic being back thing. And that's where we end Season 2, and the story so far.
And Season 3 is coming this fall, so please, please, please watch and be prepared. Subscribe right now.